Welcome to the Fast Track Cities Getting to Zero podcast. This month, we're honouring Pride, a powerful moment for visibility, unity, and action in the LGBTQ+ community. But Pride is more than a celebration. It's a protest, a time to speak openly about HIV, from the epidemic that shaped a generation to the remarkable progress we've made in treatment and care. For over 40 years, the LGBTQ+ communities have been central to the fight against HIV. From early activism to demanding access to life-saving medication, this community has never stopped pushing for change. Today, thanks to decades of relentless advocacy and scientific advancement, people living with HIV can live full and healthy lives. U equals you, undetectable equals untransmittable, has transformed what it means to live with HIV. But stigma still holds many people back from testing, treatment, and being open about their status. In this episode, we'll hear from HIV activists and ambassadors as they share their thoughts on why Pride is such an important time to talk about HIV, and how far we've come and the historical context that still shapes the conversation today. First, we hear from Jonathan, Kuba, Rebecca, Jose, and Roland as they reflect on what Pride means to them.
So, Jonathan, what does Pride mean to you?
I think Pride is incredibly important. I think that the very act of remembering Stonewall and all that came from that, and I think particularly in this day and age where the trans community is so under attack, because it was essentially, Stonewall was a trans pub, a trans bar in New York. They were forever the easy target. And that night, they had had enough and they fought back. And it's because they fought back that then Pride started to become an event which recognised what had happened. But I think it's really important that one knows the history of it, that it hasn't just come as a party from nowhere. It came really as an act of solidarity and remembrance of what happened back in 1969 in New York City.
What does Pride mean to me? Pride to me means it's an opportunity to be involved in issues that impact and affect the LGBTQI plus community. I think it's a really important time for us to be able to reflect and support the cause. That's what it means to me. I think it's really important to talk about HIV during Pride. Pride is a very good opportunity to be able to have conversations with family, with friends. I have a son who's a young gay man, and it's a really good opportunity to be able to have those conversations. I think like we've had conversations with my son, and he's been able to clarify and get up-to-date information around PrEP, around all sorts of things to do with HIV. So Pride sort of brings all of that to the surface, and it's important to be able to have those kinds of conversations.
Jose, I have a question here for you. What does Pride mean to you?
A lot of things, as a mix of like a protest and a celebration, like, you know, a protest about like the things that we still need to happen for the community, like particularly thinking of like the trans community, and then a celebration also to remind people of how much we've achieved. But again, just making sure that we're not taking that for granted and that we know that there's much more to do, I think. So it's a lot of mixed feelings and a lot of like a mixed idea of what Pride means, really. So, Kuba, why is it important to talk about HIV during Pride?
I think it's very important to talk about HIV during Pride because it's this time of the year when we are very visible. The LGBTQ plus community. Lots of people are coming, not only LGBTQ community, but lots of straight people coming too. And I think it's great for us to show how far did we come from from the 80s. It's also a great time to promote testing, so we can test people. I know there's different testing stations during the Pride. So I think it's a great moment to promote testing, but also talking about people who already live with HIV and show us that we live a normal life, we healthy, and talk about how good treatment is, that we very lucky to live here.
Next, we hear from Jonathan, who shares some thoughts about the history of Pride and how the HIV epidemic impacted the LGBTQ+ community.
Pride began as a protest. In the UK, the Gay Liberation Front formed in the 1970s. And in 1972, we held our first Pride March in London. The streets were filled with banners, badges, and homemade signs. It was about visibility and about building a community. Then came the 1980s, and with it, the AIDS epidemic. The government warned us, don't die of ignorance. But our community responded with action. We organised, educated, and cared for one another. From the founding of the Terence Higgins Trust in 1982 to Princess Diana's shaking hands with AIDS patients in 1987, those were powerful acts of resistance, compassion, and change. Groups like ACT UP and Outrage pushed back with unapologetic defiance. And during the same period, Lesbians and Gay Men Support the Minors reminded us of the strength of solidarity. Pride itself evolved. Its name changed, its reach grew, reflecting the resilience and diversity of our community. By the late 1990s, new treatments had turned HIV from a death sentence into a manageable condition. And in recent years, campaigns like You Equals You helped break down the stigma that still persists. Pride is still a protest. It's still about showing up for those we've lost, for those still fighting, and for the work that isn't yet done. Looking ahead to our 2030 goals, 0 HIV transmission, 0 AIDS-related deaths, and 0 stigma. We've come a long way, but there's still work to do. The treatment is there. HIV is now a manageable long-term health condition. But the stigma, that's what we must confront. And that begins with conversation, compassion, and with showing up for one another.
Thanks for joining us on Pride and Progress. Let's keep the conversation ongoing, not just during Pride, but every day.